Learning objectives. At the end of this topic, you will be able to subtract two proper fractions with the same denominator, subtract two mixed numbers with the same denominator up to 10, subtract two mixed numbers with different denominators up to 10. 1. Using number lines. 2. Diagrams. 3. Procedural method. In this lesson, you will learn to subtract fractions with the same denominator and with different denominators. Fractions consist of two numbers. The top number is called the numerator and the bottom number is called denominator. We use the minus sign to write the subtraction number sentences. To subtract two fractions with the same denominator, subtract the numerators and place the difference over the common denominator. To subtract fractions with different denominators, you need to follow these steps. Find the lowest common denominator of both fractions. Rename the fractions to have the lowest common denominator. For this, you need to know the equivalent fractions. Subtract the numerators of the fractions. The difference will be the numerator, and the lowest common denominator will be the denominator of the answer. Simplify the fraction if possible. Fractions can be difficult, but if you know how to do it, it will be fun. Why not challenge yourself with this problem? Neeta has broken her mother's expensive vase. As a punishment, she has to eat 5 donuts, but could only eat 3 donuts before she got a stomachache. What fraction of the total amount did she eat? What fraction is left? What would you do? Add or subtract? What strategy would you use? Try to solve it. Let me cut this whole apple pie into 4 equal parts. So I have 4 quarters. Now we can have the quarter of the pie each.
A quarter of the apple pie for me and a quarter for Anju. It's fair because it makes no difference. Yes, I had a quarter of the apple pie. I ate the quarter and now I have no pie left. A quarter minus quarter equals 0. I had a quarter or 1/4 of the apple pie too. I ate 1/4 of the pie. 1/4 minus 1/4 is 0/4. So I have 0 pie left.
I'll cut this mango pie into 8 equal portions. We have 8/8 of a mango pie. I'll put aside 3/8. What fraction of the pie is left?
We have to subtract 3/8 from 8/8. How many 8s do you have now? 8/8 and 3/8 are both like fractions. They have the same denominator, which is 8. You just subtract the numerators. 8 minus 3 equals 5. Now write this difference over the common denominator. So 8/8 minus 3/8 equals 5/8. There is 5/8 of the mango pie left. What is 5/8 minus 3/8? 5/8 minus 3/8 equals 2/8. 2/8 of the mango pie is left. Can 2/8 be simplified? How do you simplify 2/8? To simplify 2/8, I have to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. That number is 2. 2 is the common factor of 2 and 8. 2 divided by 2 equals 1. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. I got 1/4. So 5/8 minus 3/8 equals 2/8 or 1/4.
What fraction of the wall have you painted, Arvind?
I have only painted 1/6 of the wall. What's the difference in fraction? I have painted 1/3 of the wall.
To find the difference, you have to subtract 1/6 from 1/3. First, find the lowest common factor of the fractions so that both fractions have the same denominator. For 1/6 and 1/3, the lowest common denominator is 6. Next, you change 1/3. Do you remember equivalent fractions?
Yes, 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6.
Both the denominators are same now. Finally, subtract the numerators. 2/6 minus 1/6 equals 1/6. You don't need to simplify the answer because 1/6 is a fraction in its simplest form.
So the difference is 1/6. I have painted 1/3 of the wall. I still have 2/3 of the wall to paint. From the 2/3 portion, I will paint 3 9s in brown. It would match the cream. Mom, what about the remaining portions? What color are you going to paint?
I think cream is pleasant. Otherwise, it'll be too striking. What fraction of the wall needs to be painted in cream?
Subtract 3 9s from 2/3. I have to find the common denominator for both fractions first. 2/3 equals 6 9s. So 6 9s minus 3 9s equals 3 9s. I simplified 3 9s by dividing it by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1 and 9 divided by 3 is 3. The simplest form is 1/3. You're right. I need to paint another 1/3 of the wall in cream. Let's continue painting.
Hello, children. We are back with the subtraction of mixed numbers. Do you know what is minuend, subtrahend, and difference? Yes, minuend is the number from which another number is to be subtracted. The subtrahend is the number which is to be subtracted from another number. And difference is the amount by which the two numbers differ. Look at this minuend number line. The lines are divided into 8 parts. From 0 to 1 is 1 whole. The red line stops at 2 whole and 5 parts of 8. So you read it as 2 and 5 over 8 or 2 and 5 eighths. Now look at the subtrahend number line. The lines are divided into 8 parts. The blue line stops at 1 whole and 2 parts. So we read it as 1 and 2 over 8 or 1 and 2 eighths. If the minuend and the subtrahend have the same denominator, subtract the numerator of the subtrahend from the numerator of the minuend to get the numerator of the difference. See that the red line is now at 1 and 3 eighths or 1 and 3 over 8. Let's explore more. You can see from the picture that minuend is 3 and 2/3 or 3 and 2 over 3. The subtrahend is 2 and 1/3 or 2 and 1 over 3. To calculate the difference, remove the 2 whole circles. 1 and 2/3 is left. Remove 1/3 from 1 and 2/3 circle that is left is the minuend. We'll leave 1 and 1/3. So the difference is 1 and 1/3 or 1 and 1 over 3. Let's calculate using the procedural method. 1 and 5 eighths minus 7 eighths. Here the subtrahend numerator in 7 eighths is larger than the minuend numerator in 1 and 5 eighths. To subtract, the minuend is converted into an improper fraction as 13 eighths or 13 over 8. Now the numerator in 13 eighths and 7 eighths can be subtracted. The difference, 6 eighths, is renamed in lowest terms as 3/4 or 3 over 4. Look at these fractions. The minuend is 3. The subtrahend is 2 and 1/3. Here the minuend has to be converted so that the numerator can be subtracted. Decrease the whole number 3 to 2 and rename the 1 as 3 over 3. Now the minuend is 2 and 3 over 3 and the subtrahend is 2 and 1 over 3. So the difference is 2 over 3. Let's subtract mixed fractions with circles. You see from the picture that the minuend is 3 and 2/3 and the subtrahend is 2 1/2. The difference is what's left after removing the amount of blue circle in the second row from the amount of red circles in the first row. To see the difference, remove 2 whole blue circles and you're left with 1 2/3 red circles. Removing the half circle from the 1 2/3 circle in the minuend will leave a difference of 1 1/6. Let's explore more by calculating the procedural way. Pupils may prefer to work in horizontal or vertical form. In the horizontal form, the number sentence looks like this. To calculate the difference, mixed fractions should be written in fraction form first. Each fraction must be written with a common denominator. Once these fractions have a common denominator, the difference may be found by subtracting the numerators. 26/8 minus 21/8 equals 5/8. Or you use this procedure called borrowing. When the numerator of the subtrahend is larger than the numerator of the minuend, you may rewrite the minuend to subtract. This is where the borrowing comes. Decrease the whole number 3 to 2 and rename the 1 as 8/8. Add the borrowed 8 to 2 and you get 10. Now you're ready to subtract. 2 wholes minus 2 wholes gives no difference. 10 minus 5 will give a difference of 5/8. In vertical form, the number sentence looks like this. Rename the minuend and the subtrahend with the least common denominator. Write the minuend as 2 10/8. Now subtract the whole numbers. 2 minus 2 will give no difference. Subtract the numerators. 10/8 minus 5/8 will give a difference of 5/8. You may use any method to solve two mixed numbers with different denominators up to 10. Here are some activities to test your understanding. Congratulations! You have learned to subtract two fractions with the same denominator, subtract the numerators and place the difference over the common denominator, to subtract two fractions with different denominators, find the lowest common denominator, LCD, of the fractions, rename the fractions, subtract the numerators of the fractions. The difference will be the numerator, and the common denominator will be the denominator of the answer. Simplify the fraction. Congratulations! You have learned to subtract two mixed numbers with the same denominator up to 10. Note, when subtracting fractions with the same denominator, subtract the numerators only and keep the same denominator, then reduce to the simplest form. Congratulations! You have learned to subtract two mixed numbers with different denominators up to 10. Note that before two fractions are subtracted, they must have the same denominator.